In today's edition of Light Novels Teach Us Useful Things, when someone tells you not to go into a haunted house because a man-eating monster roams its halls, you should listen. Hello everybody, and welcome to my review of volume number 1 of Ao Oni, this by Kenji Kuroda. This is brought out in English by J Novel Club. If you want to pick up your own copy, I do have a link to Amazon in the description down below. Now, Ao Oni is based on a video game that came out a number of years ago and has actually been kind of translated into other media. There has been a movie based on Ao Oni. There's also been an anime based on Ao Oni, and of course the original game. This one there's at least 3 volumes of the Ao Oni book. There's this one, plus Vengeance, and then Mutation. Vengeance is currently available from J Novel Club. Mutation is coming out in August. Ao Oni is a survival horror type story. It's told in the third-person perspective, focusing mainly on main character Shun. Now, Shun has been in town for a short while. He's relatively new. He's very introverted, very quiet. And because of that, well, maybe because of that, he finds himself the focus of bully Takuro. Now, Takuro is particularly sadistic and nasty. In any case, Shun has managed to find at least 2 people that he connects with, a boy named Hiroshi and a girl named Anna. Those 3 find themselves trapped along with Takuro and his sort of posse of Takeshi and Mika. The 6 of them end up trapped inside an abandoned mansion which has the nickname the Jailhouse. You read the book to figure out why that's apropos. In any case, the thing about the Jailhouse is that it has this really nasty reputation that it has ghosts and monsters roaming its hallways, and that those who go into the house never come out. Well, it wouldn't be much of a survival horror story if the rumors weren't true, so our characters are in a life and death struggle to try and find a way to escape from the jailhouse. One of the things that really works well for this book is its pacing. It's not a very long book. I was able to read it in just a couple of hours, but that's probably a good thing. It spends just enough time on exposition to sort of set up all of its players and sort of get them into the house in a somewhat believable way, and of course gives us just enough fright and terror and mayhem and death to make the book interesting. This is also a book that, funny enough, there is going to be a spoiler-filled discussion of this book on EnglishLightNovels.com. That's actually going to be posted, if you're watching this the day it goes live, it'll be posted tomorrow, Saturday. If you're watching this after that point, I'll have a link in the description down below. Cho and I discussed this book and got into all sorts of spoilers. And one thing that Cho really pointed out with this one too is that it's definitely a light novel that gains benefits from its artwork, which is very, very true. In fact, one of the things that's really cool about it is that each chapter has its own illustration, and it's a wall with a bloodstain that kind of progressively grows and gets different as the book goes on. And it's just these little elements that really pull you in and just kind of drive the whole narrative forward. It is definitely a horror story. There is definitely gore and some gruesome bits to it, so you should be warned about that if you're not into that kind of thing. The secondary characters in this book really, I don't think, get a whole lot of fleshing out. There's a lot of questions about why they are the way they are. There's some hints at things going on in sort of the grander scheme of their lives, but we really don't get a whole lot of time with them or get into their heads. This book really is about Shun's story, and in that regard, Shun's progression as a character is actually a fairly decent story in this book. Even though there are mechanics that this uses that are common to sort of like horror type stories and stuff like that, that sometimes I'm not exactly great with. In this particular case, they kind of work because they really do help to reinforce Shun's narrative and growth as a character throughout the book. There's not really a whole lot of reinventing the wheel in this novel. If you're a fan of like horror type books or, you know, movies or that kind of stuff, you're probably not going to find a whole lot that's new and fresh in this particular book. But I will say that the elements that it uses very well. Even though I am well familiar with some of the mechanics that go into some of the twists and turns nearer to the end, I still didn't see all of them coming, which was very rewarding actually as a reader, and, you know, leaving you with sort of things that as you started thinking about them, you were like, oh, like, I do like twists that near the end that suddenly sort of make you rethink some of the things that you've read through the book, and this definitely does that, and it works. So for that, I found it really entertaining and quite clever, actually. Overall, I mean, really, this is a book based on a game where essentially people get trapped in a house, monster eats people, main character, player, tries to figure out a way to get out and solve puzzles and escape. Like, really, there's not a lot of narrative that this was based on, and based on that fact, I'd say that the book does a really good job of creating a story around this pretty simple game outline. If you are familiar with Yume Nikki, that is also a game adaptation novel that J-Novel put out at about the same time as Ao Oni. Yume Nikki I really liked, and it was definitely much more of an atmospheric experience than this book. But the one thing about Yume Nikki that I'm not sure how well it worked, it tried to explain sort of the mystery of its story. In Ao Oni, it definitely explains exactly why things are happening, and I think it really works well, especially if you take it into the context of, you know, your typical Japanese horror, ghost, monster type stories. You'll see, as I said, a lot of elements that you will find very comfortable with and that you will recognize, and you'll be like, okay, yeah, I see what you did there. Overall, this is a fairly fun little read. Like I said, it's not very long. The pace moves very, very quickly, especially when they get into the mansion, which is the good part of the book, because at that point, it is pretty much a race for survival right there and then. And there's just enough gruesome bits to satisfy that kind of a horror fan. Overall, I really liked this one. I liked the pacing of it. It was fun. And as I said, it was just long enough to feel right, but its pace and length didn't feel like it was belaboring the point or drawing itself out and getting bloated with a whole bunch of stuff that was boring or not useful at all. So those are my thoughts on volume number 1 of the Ao Oni series. My next review is going to be on something completely different, and that's going to be volume number 1 of A Sister's All You Need. Yeah, if you've seen like the first couple minutes of the anime adaptation that recently was out of this series, you will probably understand my hesitation at giving it a read. But yeah, that's going to be my next review. So if you're brand new to the channel and you love light novels, you should consider subscribing. I do 2 to 3 reviews every single week, as well as a weekly countdown of the top 10 best-selling light novels in Japan. Thank you so much for joining me in this video. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Till then, bye-bye for now.